Welcome to UFOs over Pittsburgh. I'm your host, John Ventry. I'm the Pennsylvania State Director of the Mutual UFO Network. I'm joined today by co-host Fred Saluga, who is the West Virginia State Director of MUFON. And today we will be joined via Skype by a European scientist who wishes to remain anonymous. And the topic is the occult. Fred, today we have a special guest on. This is a person from Europe, a scientist who contacted me from watching our show when we uploaded it to UAM TV. And she had some very interesting things to say. Now, we're not going to use her name. She's a European scientist. She discovered us actually on YouTube. And she's done some long-term research into the paranormal, magic, the use of symbols. And we're going to speak to her right now. So, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thanks for being on. So you were saying, how did you go about and discover us?
Yes, it was nearly by chance. I have been looking for some lectures about angels and fairies and such topics of cultural anthropology. And then I had some suggestions, automatic suggestions on YouTube about your show. And so by chance I got to it and I found it very interesting. But I wanted to add something about magic and the use of symbols in rituals, because I thought this would be an interesting information which is partly missing or which could complete the bigger picture. And therefore I contacted you, and so we got into contact, yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, tell us, I mean, you say you're not one of those who believe that everything's in your mind, that these things actually do happen. So tell us a little about what you learned about the symbols and rituals, and maybe that falls under magic and witchcraft, but tell us something about that, because we're really not very versed in that field.
Okay, could you specify your question a little bit more, because the use of symbols in ritualistic magic is such a broad field.
Oh, okay.
It would be really useful if you could specify your question.
Okay, well, you had said to me that this goes back a long time to the Greeks and the Romans. Tell us a little about that.
Okay, symbols in ancient magic or in ancient cultures have been used first for so-called divination. Divination was the summoning of gods and goddesses in order to achieve an oracle. Yeah. So you had to use a symbolic representation of the god or the goddess, for example, of Venus or of Mars or Jupiter, in order to summon the deity and to achieve a certain prediction about events to come. Yeah. And secondly, the use of symbols has been connected with magic. Magic is the procedure of achieving changes through willpower. Therefore, symbols can be used as a kind of how do you call it in English? Symbols can be used as a transmitter between your willpower and a goal which is to be achieved.
So then when you see shows on television regarding witchcraft and spells and all of that, there's truth to that if you can say it in the correct frequency and tone and words and language, that there's some power associated to that.
Okay, there is of course the, I would say, Hollywood use of witchcraft, which is a very contorted view. Yes,
oh, okay.
I would say there is such a thing as ritualistic magic, and we should take it seriously. Yeah, because powerful things can happen if someone is capable to use energetically charged symbols. in order to create a certain event or a certain outcome. But what we usually see on TV is but a distorted view. Yeah, it gives some information, but it is misleading. Yeah, either it ridicules magic. Yeah, we have seen this in many shows for children or for teenage girls.
Yeah.
And there are, in fact, many teenage girls who discover what they supposed to be witchcraft. In fact, it is, from a psychologist's view, nothing but a kind of compensation. Yes, you see, this has nothing to do with the old magic of the ancient days. It is more a kind of teenage angst transferred into a certain setting. But there are indeed very powerful rituals, especially in the entertainment industry. Yeah. And these are not those as shown on TV, but secretly, yes. We can assume that there are many people, many stars or musicians who are very big in entertainment industry, who have indeed performed some rituals in order to achieve their power and to be more famous. Yeah, this is not a modern or urban myth, as we may guess, but I suppose there is much more to it.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, you hear that with a lot of people. They basically make this pact with the devil. So now, with witches, are they? Can you learn to become one, or are you basically born into a family line to be a real powerful?
Okay, this is a very good question, Mr. Ventre. I think you can learn about witchcraft like you can learn a language. Yeah, you can learn a foreign language. You can learn the vocabulary and the grammar, and you can practice a lot, and so you become familiar with the language structure. But not everyone is really gifted. Yes, you see. And with witchcraft, it is quite a similar thing. You can read a lot about it. There are historical books and so on. And you can actually learn some spell work. But in my opinion, there is more to it. Some traits cannot be learned. Yeah? Maybe they must be as you say, in the bloodline. Yeah, there is something genetic about it. Yeah, a person whose family has been into witchcraft since generations is surely more capable than someone who is an outsider and has just learned some theoretical circumstances.
Well, you know, the Bible, it talks about generational sins that are passed down, so it seems like the same type of thing could be passed down through family lines, you know. But you kind of get into now, it sounds like secret societies and stuff. Tell me what you think about that.
Okay, as far as I know, secret societies and secret services use very similar kind of magic, you know, because secret societies are all about the esoteric knowledge. And esoteric knowledge in this context is not the same as esoteric, as New Age consumist point of view of today, because esoterikos in Greek means the inner circle. Yeah? And the esoteric secret societies of the ancient days have been the inner circle of sorcerers and witches. Yeah, it could be translated of the circle of those who know about hidden powers.
Okay.
And secret services rely on secret societies' knowledge of witchcraft and of magic. Yeah? Therefore, many paranormal phenomena, such as researched by secret services, such as levitation, teleportation, and so on, actually originate in the secret societies.
How would you define secret services? What is the difference between a secret society? What do you mean by secret services?
The secret services are institutions
Oh, okay.
within the governmental structure. Yeah,
Okay.
intelligence agencies. Yeah,
Okay.
so. And
So,
the secret societies are societies just like Freemasons, Rosicrucians, and so on.
okay. So what do you think that they've actually done? Like, how are they influencing things today? What do you actually think with these societies and services?
Okay, as for secret services, military research, Mr. Ventura, is about half a century ahead. Can you imagine? 50 years advancement. They are 50 years ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
What we are using today, for example, mobile communication, internet services, and so on, has been invented long ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is actually outdated in the view of the military research. Yeah? Imagine there are 50 years ahead of us. I cannot really say because I'm not into this research,
Yeah.
but can imagine this is very, very advanced.
Okay. Well, when we spoke the other day, we talked about Goetia, and you mentioned Faust. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, magic has got several several degrees. First of all, there are more or less degrees of magic, and there are two opposite directions of magic: Goetia and Theurgia. Goetia means the contact with the deceased, with the dead, or with demons.
Okay.
Yeah. While Theurgia, from Greek, it means the divine work. Theurgia means that white magic, a person is trying to improve the soul. So it is more about self-enhancement and self-knowledge, while Goetia actually is described as communication with demons or with deceased.
Yeah, and I only learned about that in June of last year, 6-7 months ago, as far as King Solomon used the magic of Goetia to build King Solomon's temple. I never knew that before, and to me, it then explains a lot of the ancient alien sites that weren't built by aliens, but through magic and controlling demons. What do you think about that? Could the pyramids and Baalbek and King Solomon's temple actually be built through Goetia, controlling them to do the heavy lifting?
It could be, but I think there are other possible causes for that. Yeah, Goetia has got much to do with frequencies. Yeah, you need to change your state of conscience. Of mind, your state of mind, in order to achieve a certain frequency, and within this frequency range you can communicate with entities, within this range. It is said in the ancient legends that actually some temples, as you have mentioned, the Temple of Solomon as one example, have been built by the help and the support of demons or those entities. This may be true, yes, but the typical case of Goetia, as mentioned in Faust, is not about giving guidance or giving support for creating something like an object. It is more like catching a person's soul, and consume the soul. Just as you mentioned, this is the classical pact with the devil. This is typical for Goetia. The deal is the devil or the demonic entity will give you, the human, unlimited power or riches, and you will give me your soul in return. This is the classic setting of this demonic pact, and this in fact is the recurring story of Goetia.
Yeah. What's interesting? I read recently Whitley Strieber, who wrote the book Communion, and he's written a number of books. he was a practicing witch. He was into witchcraft and the occult prior to his encounters. And when you read his books, it changed from what appeared to be the gray alien abduction to his fear that they were there to take his soul. And I read in a 1990 interview, after he wrote his first couple of books, he said that whatever has happened to him, he has brought upon himself through his paranormal and occult practices. Now, that's something they don't tell you, but I read this. So does this fall along the same lines?
Very much, Mr. Ventura. It is because from an energetic point of view, it is all about frequency and energy. And those demonic entities, although they may appear very strong, actually need to feed off human energy. Yeah? And therefore, as you have mentioned, there is this fear of the victims or of those who actually have a deal with those entities, that they could feed off their energy, yeah? Lastly, of their soul. Yes. This is the classic fear, and it is combined with this setting of a deal. Yes.
So if somebody were to have a paranormal encounter with what appears to be a demonic encounter, even though you don't see it, should you try to remain very calm and not be afraid and not be angry, but try to stay very calm so they can't suck your energy?
If possible, yes, under certain circumstances. But I can imagine that these events are very, very frightened in their nature. So it would be too much to demand of a person who's actually a victim to stay calm. I suppose that there may be events not so scary that even a master could not remain in perfect calm. So maybe we cannot ask too much of a person. But in general, yes, it is good advice to not give too much energy, soul energy, such as emotional energy, into these situations if possible.
Okay. Yes. Well, tell us a little bit about the Theosophical Society and Madame Blavatsky. You had talked to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, okay. The link to Madame Blavatsky was your question about the New Age movement. Yeah. And where does the New Age movement fit into this picture? What does it have to do with demons? And I have answered you that Madame Blavatsky said, while she was lying in her deathbed, that the so-called ascended masters are nothing but demons. So when we see the so-called New Age movement of today, it is dealing much with so-called ascended masters, meaning intelligences or entities of supreme intelligence or of a supreme integrity. Yeah, such as Tara or the Count of Saint-Germain and so on. And in fact, Madame Blavatsky called all those entities a fraud and demons. Yeah? These are just demons in disguise. Blavatsky herself was a Russian researcher and author of the 19th century. She has traveled a lot around the world, and her research aim was to collect everything of the occult in order to give a complete picture. And she has written a lot about what she considered to be the secret doctrine of all cultures, of all ages. She had two main two main books. The first was The Secret Doctrine, and the second, Isis Unveiled. So Isis having nothing to do with Isis of today, of the political group, but the goddess from Egypt, Isis Unveiled. Yeah. So she was, with her research about the occult traditions of the cultures, a kind of forerunner of the New Age movement of today. Yeah. She founded the Theosophical Society, which is still around. Yeah.
Yeah, I read it's actually in the 51 or 52 countries, but it's kind of interesting that the person who started all of this on her deathbed confessed that what you're contacting are demons. And, I have said this for years. I have friends into the metaphysical, into the universal consciousness and all of that. And I said, how do you know who you're contacting? I don't want to contact anything mentally that I can't see and verify. It's trust but verify. I don't trust this.
Yes. Okay, I can understand you very well. When we are thinking in terms as frequencies or energy, we must be very skeptical when we see a certain entity which needs energy or which feeds off energy from humans.
Yes.
What else can this be but demonic? I mean, if there is something divine, it is perfect. It is not dependent and is not in need to feed off someone else's energy. You see, this cannot be something else as a demonic entity if it is in need and dependent on human energy.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now you had also you told me a little bit last week about the occult and Nazi Germany and Hitler. Do you want to tell us a little about that?
Oh, this is a long story.
Well, tell me in about 3 minutes worth of Hitler and the Nazis and the occult.
In fact, World War II was an event which was not only of this world, but also with very much help or very much interference of other dimensions on all sides. On the Nazi side, on the Allied side, yes. Of course, Adolf Hitler has had his own paranormal counselors, but as far as I know, Churchill has had his own paranormal counselors and astrologers as well as France had, and so on. One thing which was very special about the German side was the use of runic symbols. Runes or runic symbols being the ancient symbols of power lines who can actually transform certain energies. For example, the so-called Sieg-Heil rune, the Siegel rune, represented the sun, the power of the sun, or in ancient Rome it was the same as the god Sol Invictus. It meant a life force. And also the German Hakenkreuz derives from the Indian symbol of swastika, which was thousands of years old. It had originally nothing to do with Germany or with Nazi Germany, the Third Reich. It was an ancient sun symbol, but also a symbol of the universe, because the swastika, as you know, has got 4 parts, and the 4 parts or 4 arms of the swastika actually represent stars who are in a whirl within the universe, which becomes bigger and bigger, because the ancient Indians already knew, and it is written in their Vedic traditions, such as in the Rig Veda, that the universe is not stable, it is dynamic, it is growing actually, and the swastika was a representation of this. And so Nazi Germany actually was very knowledgeable about all these symbols, and they used it on purpose in order to concentrate much energy and give it to their political rituals.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've said for a long time that the Foo Fighters during World War II, those were actually balls of energy, a demonic energy, observing the fighting and the killing and the carnage. We're almost out of time, so I want to ask you one last thing. You had mentioned to me that you gave me a warning if I get too close. If anyone gets too close to the truth, what happens? Remember you said that if you get too close to the truth, you'll be taken down, the show or the information. Remember you warned me if you get too close?
No, it has not to be taken literally. Yes, I
Yes.
suppose. But there can be some obstacles put in your way on purpose.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's very dangerous to deal with energies, or more to discover some truths about energies which have been around for thousands of years, but whose use actually still belongs to hidden knowledge.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. We're about out of time right now, but we appreciate you getting on from Europe and taking this time, and we appreciate you having on. So keep looking for our shows out there on YouTube, and thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me. Yes?
All right, thank you.